Hi, this is an introduction and demonstration of BigID's data intelligence platform focused on data governance capabilities. BigID is a data intelligence platform to know and manage your data. BigID has strong roots in privacy and security, where customers originally relied on the BigID platform to discover and identify sensitive data across all data sources and types, and apply policies to comply with regulations. This core discovery foundation naturally evolved into data governance, with similar needs to classify all data and gain intelligence to identify critical data elements and manage how the data can be collected, stored, and used. So today, BigID sits at this intersection of privacy, security, and governance with a strong discovery foundation to know your data. This image illustrates how BigID is reimagining data management. The base layer illustrates all of the BigID connectors to connect your data. BigID's data intelligence platform connects to any and all data sources, so structured, unstructured, or semi-structured data. The data can live in the cloud, on-prem, or in hybrid environments, and we can even scan data pipelines. This is unique to BigID because the platform connects to any data source and is able to manage structured data along with unstructured data for a complete solution all in one view. Data environments are naturally complex with lots of different types of data from different sources. And so for the first time, data teams are able to scan and gain intelligence about all of their data assets, regardless if they are structured data sets or in files or emails or even data in S3 buckets or Salesforce notes and more, all in a single platform. The middle layer is the discovery in-depth foundation to know your data. This is where BigID talks about the 4 C's to add value with 4 lenses to gain intelligence about your data. These 4 C's are classification to identify and label the data, correlation to see relationships between data, cluster analysis to group the data together, similar data sets, and find duplicate data. And then this all comes together, it populates an interactive catalog with all of that metadata in a searchable view. This layer represents patented machine learning for deeper insight and understanding to know your data. And it's a unique differentiator for BigID's data governance because no other catalog is going to automatically deliver this level of intelligence with speed and scale to keep the catalog current with labels, tags, insights, and policy management. The top layer, here is called Action Your Data, represents all of the apps that are designed to interact with the BigID platform, so you can take action on the data and interact with the catalog. For example, add BigID's data quality app to measure and manage the quality of your data and display those data quality scores in the catalog. Now, users will benefit by identifying the data assets with context and quality. Or add a data retention app to set retention policies to know when data should be archived or deleted, or identify data that should be saved for a legal hold. The apps all integrate with the platform to provide control from a single point to consistently manage all of your data, and then you can audit your actions and tasks. The apps are going to include a variety of out-of-the-box functions and automation, while also allowing for customization. So for example, customers can set custom policies based on priorities for your organization. This is our key differentiators slide. And in the governance demo coming up next, I'm going to highlight some of the differentiators that are on this wheel. So for now, I'm just going to point out a few here to start with. The first is coverage. I'm going to show you how BigID connects to all data sources and types. This is significant because we have extra coverage. So when we talk about setting governance policies for data, we want to look at the complete environment to set up policies for all of our data. For example, we don't want to be compliant in only one of our data sources. Instead, customers want to classify data across all sources and then set and enforce policies across all those data sources consistently. And that means not needing to manage each source and data type individually. Number 2 here is context. BigID uses patented machine learning to add context at scale to know what your data is and see how it's related and connected to the other data objects in your environment. Because you can't govern data unless you know what your data is and where it is and what it means, or you can't govern what you don't know. BigID adds context by adding classifiers and tags to identify all data objects. And one level deeper, BigID policies add even more context to know if data is subject to any privacy regulations or internal business rules or retention policies for lifecycle management. Customers can automatically apply attributes that add context and tag objects that include sensitive information and classify objects by data type and even custom sensitivity levels. BigID provides data intelligence and then enables users to take action or enable active metadata to detect changes and trigger events. Privacy and risk management are deep in the core capabilities, and BigID provides value for a variety of different users in a data-driven environment. We're going to transition here to the product demo, where we'll look at the platform and some of the functions. Okay, here we are on the BigID demo. This is the introduction home screen that you're going to see when you join the BigID platform. We have a dashboard that has overviews of some of your quick views, like how many sources with findings, entities, policies, attributes, objects. We have a quick visual view of where in the world your data is located, especially helpful for global companies who just need to know where the data is. And of course, you can click through and drill deeper down into this. There's some machine learning insights for help with knowing your data. So information like you have sensitive files that are open to large groups of people. You might want to help to make those more secure. So it's giving you a lead to know, based on the data, to know how you should work to govern your data. We're going to connect to a new data source. We talked about how we have different content coverage at BigID. So I want to show you that to get started. So the way you'd start is you would connect any data source. And this means at BigID, we have both structured and unstructured data. So as we scroll through here, I just want you to just take a quick look and see at some of the examples we have of both structured and unstructured data. It could be also wherever it is. So it could be based in a modern cloud platform. It could be traditional on-prem legacy databases, whatever it is, wherever it is, BigID can connect to it. This is a sample of just quick connectors you can use. You can also very easily do a custom connector or connect to anything through an open API as well. But the key here to know is that the differentiator is that BigID is going to connect to all of your data. So being able to manage all your data in one place, structured and unstructured data, wherever it is, whatever it is, BigID can use it all together. Next, we talked about in that image I showed you, we had both you connect your data and then you add context here through these C's: correlation, cluster analysis, classification, and catalog. So we'll walk through these so I can just give you a quick look at what these would look like. For example, on correlation, this is how we're going to determine how data is related in your environment. So for example, this full name attribute appears in these other data sources. So to know how how data is related and connected in your environment, it's helpful to know no data is alone, it connects. We also have these views of how data connects, which is important to know like what things are nearby in the data, to know, for example, name, ID, and email, those are grouped together. So we're able to see how things come together and where, what data means based on the context as well. We have cluster analysis. Cluster analysis is where we can see how data is similar or duplicate data in your environment. And these are all cases that we're looking for that contain PI. If I have sensitive information that is in more than one place or duplicate copies of sensitive information, that's going to increase my risk profile. So I'd like to minimize that risk by just eliminating, cleaning up, making sure I don't have more copies of sensitive data that I really need. And as I click through even these bubbles, I can see that this, so for example, employee information, these are the items in my cluster, and it was based on things like these keywords. So these are some keywords and attributes that are how BigID determined that these items were grouped together for similar duplicate data. I can just see also just where they are. And that way I can know what data I need to clean up, or just to know if, for example, I'm looking for a data source, it has low quality, I can find similar data that might be better quality for me. Next, classification is something that most people are most familiar with. The classifiers are things that we add tags and attributes to our data so that we can determine what it is. So we have basic out-of-the-box classifiers at BigID based on common terms that we often find in data, things like names and locations, right? Addresses, countries, emails, date of birth. These are kind of common things that you expect to find in data sources, kind of through most organizations, credit cards and policy numbers, all kind of things that are common. But you can also set classifiers that are custom classifiers for your organization. So for example, if you are maybe you're a car manufacturer and you want to label your part numbers, or you're a Campbell soup and you want to you want to label your recipe or your secret recipe or your Coke recipe or whatever is important to your company, you can set classifiers that are specific to your company, your organization, your industry. And then you can see here within, so for example, within family name, I can see objects that relate to this family name and how we connected similar objects, where they're located, and how we tag things with classifiers. And then this all comes together in the catalog. And the catalog is an interactive view of all of this data. And I want to show you here how we can find our both structured and unstructured, what that means. So for a structured data source, we can look at this marketing data source. And I can see here in my marketing table, I can see right away that it contains some PI because it probably has a bunch of names and addresses and contact information that is sensitive. I can see also that it was, these tags on it. I can see who the owner is, which is important because I know oftentimes it's kind of hard to even just know who to talk to about the data. So if you have a question, knowing who to talk to is really helpful. I can also contact that owner directly using a reporting an issue, or it's really just a contact button. So I can contact them to collaborate on different kinds of data questions that I have. I can also follow objects. So if I think that this is a table that I'm going to use frequently, I might want to follow it just for ease of use so I can get it quicker next time. Within this table, I can also see the attributes. As I mentioned, these were all automatically applied based on the knowledge that we gained through these other 4 C's, the other classification correlation. We're adding these different column names and different classifiers to it. Within the columns in this table, I can see things like there's the attributes again and classifiers that are added. I can see here that we have there's percentage scores, and the percentage scores I want to point out really quick because this is a confidence score. So how sure are we that full name is the correct classifier for this full name for this column? So we can see how sure we are, and that helps to increase trust. So based on this one, 76%, I can just see an explanation of why we gave it the score that we did, so that you can determine if you should in fact trust that data and how where the score came from. You also see the data quality scores high and low. Those data quality scores are coming from a whole different data quality application over here that we have. And that is a way that we can set rules and determine data quality for any data source. So within these columns, I'll show you a couple more things here. Within, say, full name, if I look at this column, I can see some basic profiling that's going to come up. I can click on here to see similar columns, which is because we were able to do that, the analysis to see all our duplicate and similar columns. I can also quickly just see, if we have null values, average length, I can see distinct values, min, max, kind of your traditional, what you'd expect to find in your profiling. I can also see a column preview. And this I think is interesting because it's not just your basic preview, but it's also based on, I can say things like ignore the null values or show me only distinct values. And so it's a way I can get to a preview that it's letting me be a little bit smarter about how I preview my data. That is the column level example. At the table example, also at the table level, I can just use this preview and get a view of my whole table. This is an example of a structured data source, of course, with all nice columns and labeled things and nicely organized. But what if I have something that is not as well organized? So for example, if I'm looking for some unstructured data, as an example, I'm going to look for a CV. We have here Benjamin Terry Young. We'll use his as an example. So we have a CV from Benjamin Terry Young, and this is an unstructured data source, but I can already see that BigID has determined the access type and its sensitivity and priority and different things about it. I can also see attributes that were attributed to this, this unstructured data. And then it gets interesting here where we talk about a preview. And you'll see what happens here in this preview. The BigID is going to pick out certain items in the unstructured data to say, we have locations, we have dates, we have email addresses. And so it's able to find information in your unstructured data. And that's how it's going to add more intelligence, add tags, find sensitive data, and be able to manage your data better across both structured and unstructured data. So we talked about content coverage. We talked about how we do data curation and adding context to data. We're going to talk about how we do profiling. We talked about profiling, and then we're going to talk about these apps. So under apps, we have a whole series of different applications you can put on top of your discovered data. So everything from data processing and sharing, for example, is how we see lineage to see how data is moving through the organization, and just get a view of how data is used in the company, which is great. We also have different tabs on that one. Let's go back to our applications management. I can also show you examples of things. These are all in the privacy space, right? We also have apps for protection, so security things. We also have perspective apps, and these are ones that I most commonly demo when we talk about data governance, things like retention and quality and stewardship. And I've even pinned them here just right to my screen to make it really easy to use those also. We also have connectors, and we know that BigID is not the only solution in customers' environment. We're working with big enterprise customers. We also do have some smaller ID for some smaller mid-sized companies, but in terms of the big companies, we know that we have often BigID sitting alongside of solutions like Tableau or Snowflake, of course, in Elation or Calibra or EDC, you'll see these here. We have also integrations with Jira and ServiceNow. So once you find maybe items in your environment and you need to do remediation, or you need to just have tasks with them, you can connect to those other applications. So we are integrating with other systems in your environment. So for example, to be able to say, take all of that context and intelligence and add that to Tableau or just other environments that you have that you use all the time, other business critical environments. When we talk about privacy controls, so we do have privacy controls here within the platform. Under administration is a way that I can set my credentials, and I can do access management sensitivity based on my for privacy within the platform itself. But also we have privacy that flows to other solutions. So for example, let's say we know that we know what data is, we've already tagged it, we've classified it, we know it's sensitive. We know that only certain people should access, for example, social security numbers. Then that flows through, say, to Snowflake. So now if you are in Snowflake and you have data that you've imported, and we know at BigID that that is a social security number, and you have role-based access to say that what your role is, we can then determine if you should or should not have access, and we can do a dynamic data masking. So the privacy controls are not only within BigID, but they even flow through to our partner solutions. Next, talk about pricing and support. For support, BigID offers award-winning customer support. We have staff around the globe because we have big global customers, and we need to offer support around the clock. So we have global support for customers. And then pricing is going to be based on bands of data sources with any of these apps that you would like to add on. And packages can be customized based on customer individual needs. So to learn more about that, also, please contact us at bigid.com. And in summary, I just want you all to know differentiators that BigID does have access to connect all of your data types. So structured, unstructured data in the cloud, on-prem, wherever it is, we add it all into a single platform and able to add context to be able to know your data. So we're adding context at scale for efficient and effective and consistent data governance. Please contact us at bigid.com to learn more. I'm going to be happy to talk with you about your personal solution with data management. So thanks again for watching.